Welcome to the Local Section Treasurers webinar for 2020. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Megan Barillo and I'm the Communications Manager with CWEA staff. This webinar is being recorded and will be saved to our CWEA YouTube channel. And these slides will also be saved and loaded to the Leaders website at leaders.cwea.org. So before we get started, I just want to run through our Zoom webinar controls. At the bottom of your Zoom window, you should see a black toolbar with some controls. If you have any questions at any time, please open the Q&A box and type the question in, and I will read that question out loud after each presenter. And if you have any technical issues, there's also a chat box that you can load your technical issues into. So that's that, and then let's get started by introducing our webinar speakers. Today we have Ken Merkel with the City of Tracy. He's our current CWEA Board Treasurer. We have William Cassidy with Orange County Sanitation District, our CWEA State Board Incoming Treasurer, and Mark Takemoto with CDM Smith. He's our CWEA State Board Member and Northern Regional Committee Chair. And also Rainey Powell, our Chief Operating Officer at CWEA staff. And we can begin.
Okay, hi, and thank everybody for joining our local section annual treasurer orientation. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll give you a overview, kind of what we're going to discuss today. We're going to be talking about the local section financial policies and procedures and what the importance of those are. And then, of course, your role as the treasurer, or maybe you're a president or other position on your board and may have some oversight or may have to take over those treasurer responsibilities. I know some of you have kind of fallen into the position. Also, the reporting requirements and responsibilities for each of your local sections. And then we're going to also be discussing the budget and reporting template, which will be sent out to everybody. And the budgets are coming up quickly. Budgets are due, I believe, before April 1st. And then also we'll be talking about available support to support you and your local sections. Because the CWEA board has ultimate fiduciary responsibility over all aspects throughout CWEA, and all CWEA local sections and committees operate under the same federal tax ID, we, the board, depend on local section treasurers to provide CWEA staff the information and documentation they need to complete monthly reconciliations and the year-end audit and file of tax returns. We also provide monthly documentation from you, the local sections, on your revenue and expenses in a concise and timely manner, which is critical so that we can consolidate the information from all 17 local sections. Reporting has improved significantly over the past several years, and we want to thank you for that. But there are still improvements that can be made in submitting all the documents that we need. A good question you might ask yourself is, why do we need to do this? All local sections and committees are under one tax ID number, and the IRS guidelines require us to report annually for all of our local sections on income and where it comes from, which includes memberships, conferences, sponsorships, etc., and where the funds received by the sections are spent, whether they're spent for supplies, speakers, food, rental of facilities, and those type of things, to ensure that what we are doing is consistent with our mission. This is essential for retaining our 501c3 nonprofit tax exempt status. Also, it's just good business. Information that your local section board and our CWEA state board need to make good decisions. The more transparent we can be with our income and expenses as a nonprofit, the higher degree of protection afforded to all our volunteers. Next slide, Renew. So financial policy FP 104 is the guiding document for local sections and for the state board. We updated the policy in January of 2017, and it was approved by the state board in January also. It is available for all local section leaders to review on CWEA's website and contains valuable information regarding our financial policies and procedures. So the value of Financial Policy 104 is to kind of reduce the risk to volunteers and CWEA as a whole. It will improve our ability to meet fiduciary responsibility. It increases our accountability and makes sure that we have consistent reporting from all 17 local sections. It may clarify any non-compliance outcomes and also conform with our nonprofit IRS and California regulations. FP 104 also prepares us for our financial year-end audit. Some of the key points are with each bank account, we have one account per section. Each of those accounts have been grandfathered and no CDs are allowed if you have excess operating funds. Online access. CWEA needs online access for the proper internal controls, which includes the executive director and our financial chief operating officer. So that may require some of the local sections to migrate over to an executive director approved bank. I think we have all of you on ED approved banks now. Also, debit cards and credit cards. CWEA does not issue or approve of credit cards to be handled by each local section. Debit cards are allowed with expressed approval from the executive director at an ED approved bank. Merchant accounts with specific vendors are only allowed when they are through a ED approved bank. The use of PayPal, CWEA does not allow the use of PayPal for paying of any accounts or for conferences or materials. But you can work with our CWEA staff for alternate solutions. Unbudgeted disbursements. When you have an unbudgeted disbursement, it requires written notification to the executive director. For signature authority, the reconciler, person doing the statement and signing it to the, sending it to renew, cannot be the signer. So you're going to need your section president or other board member to actually sign on your monthly bank statements. And also any checks above $500 that are issued by your local section require 2 signatures. CWEA does offer bookkeeping support to all available sections and also requires sections with a history or record of late financial reporting to actually come under the umbrella of CWEA's financial reporting services that we can help you with. Other key financial policy items include providing copies of any and all signed contracts, annually providing a list of any assets that your local section may own, such as laptops, printers, projectors, or anything that may be of an asset of greater than $100 needs to be provided to CWEA annually. Also, you need to report any payment over $5,000 orally to the executive director and chief operating officer. There's a maximum allowable maximum of 2 local section officers on each bank account. And also on your bank accounts, the executive director and chief operating officer have to be listed as signature per people on your accounts. Approval is needed by the executive director whenever you want or to change banks. And notification of any signatory changes have to be made to CWEA within 10 days of any changes. So at this point, I'll open it up to any questions that there may be for the first part of the webinar. Does anybody have any questions? And you can submit those through the Q&A or the chat. Not hearing any, I think I'll turn this presentation over to Mark Takamoto, who will talk about some local section guidance that's being offered to each local section. Mark?
Great, thank you, Ken. So just a brief introduction here as I start talking about annual budgeting. This is kind of the time of year when local sections start developing their budgets and submits them to CWEA for approval. What we decided to do this year, and this is the first time we're doing it, is to provide some guidance in that budgeting process. And this is very high level guidance where it's just a couple of items. So it's just a first start and we'll see how it goes and then move on from there. But the purpose of it is to provide some benchmarks for local sections when they're doing their budgets, and also to make sure that across the state, each local section is kind of spending their funds equally and towards CWEA's mission and goals. So that's kind of why we established this. And this kind of came out of a discussion last year. Some of you may know that every year at the Northern Regional Committee and Southern Regional Committee meeting at the annual conference, we vote on whether or not to raise local section dues. And some sections were in favor of it. They felt like they could use the additional resources to fund their programs. And then some sections felt like they already had sufficient resources and didn't need that. So we took a closer look at the finances of each section in terms of how much money they had, and came up with some guidance. And so like the guidance, it's 2 points here. And you can ask questions as we get towards the end. But number one is, for each section, we would like you to try and spend at least $50 per member in terms of your program of work. So for example, if you had 100 members, you would try and spend $5,000 for your per program per year. So that's kind of the target, the minimum target. Currently, most sections are spending between $50 and $90 per member. So most sections are already there, already doing that. There are a few outliers that are below the 50, and we'd just like to see them try and develop their program of work to get to that benchmark. And again, this is the first time we're doing it, so we're not expecting everybody to immediately get to these benchmarks or guidance levels, but it's a target, and we're gonna try and work with you to get there. Number two is to work towards maintaining a savings account balance less than your annual expense budget. So what that means is an example here. So again, if you are spending $100,000 per year on your program of work, then you should try and keep your bank account balance at or below $100,000. And we also have a minimum target there, 50%. So basically 6 months of your expenses. But the purpose there, again, is to make sure that we're not building up very large reserves in each local section, and then the actual funds that are coming in are being put back towards the mission of the members. And so we don't want to see just large amounts of money being stored and not being utilized. So again, that's a target. We don't expect you to get there maybe this year, especially if you have a large bank account balance, but something to work on. And we really like to see that go towards things like education, tools and training for the members, rather than just simply kind of gifting it back or spending on door prizes. So there are a lot of resources to help you with this. You can reach out to other local sections, your liaison, the NRC, SRC, CWA staff. There's a lot of programs out there that are looking for sponsorship or support. So there's a couple listed there, but if you are looking for ways to help with that, reducing the account balance, there are definitely ways of doing that. So please reach out if you're looking for ways to do that. So, and with that, we're open to questions. I know that Renew is going to talk a little bit more about the budget template in a way to kind of help budget for the additional expenditure, but any questions on, okay, I do see one. How would you suggest spending money on education? Well, that would be, training and tools. Again, there were a couple programs there listed that could use some funding. More training events. You can reduce the cost of training events. So I think there's definitely different ways of spending the money. Yeah, trainers often do it for free. Maybe if you're a section that's kind of remote, there could be a way to help offset some of the travel costs for the trainers, or work with a local section that's nearby to, organize more trainers. That would be a bigger event. I think there's lots of different ways of doing that. More events, obviously, another way of doing it too. Other questions? No? Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Renu to talk about annual budgeting.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for everyone who's attending this webinar. Within the next 10 days, all local section treasurers will receive an email with the fiscal year 2021 monthly reporting template. During January and February, many local sections have new treasurers coming in. If you are a new treasurer and do not receive the reporting template by March 6th, please contact me. The reporting template is in Excel format. There are 17 pages in total. You will see the tabs identifying each page along the bottom of the template. This template is the one you will use to create your fiscal year 2021 budget. CWEA fiscal year is from July 1st through June 30th. To create your budget, select the Budget tab. There are two sections. At the top is revenue, and at the bottom are the expenses. Programs are listed in columns along the top. Categories for revenue and expenses are listed in rows along the left side. The programs and categories are in protected cells and cannot be changed. This is done because at the end of the year, the information provided by all 17 local sections is uploaded into CWEA's state financial and tax return. Therefore, it needs to be consistent. If you have a program that does not fit into any of those listed, you can use one of the three columns on the left side listed as Other. These three columns are not protected. If you do use one of these columns, please overwrite the word Other with the name of the program. To complete your budget, you can use actuals of a prior year, or you can look at where you currently stand, and you can fill in the programs and the categories that pertain to your budget. This year, we have, as Mark said, we've added a new expense category called Local Section Opportunity Funds. Oh, I missed one section. There is also a miscellaneous and income and miscellaneous expense category. These should be avoided when creating your budget. Try to fit your budget items within those categories that are listed. If your local section can offer funds to help support other local sections and CWEA committees host training events, you can allocate funds earmarked for support in the expense category Local Section Opportunity Funds. You will not be obligated to use the allocated funds if you do not want to, but this will allow the NRC and SRC committee to know how much is available, if needed, and also who to ask it for it. Funds will never be taken from your account without your approval. The budget is due on or before April 30th. CWEA State Board reviews and approves local section budgets. To meet the time frame for the board to do this before the beginning of the new fiscal year, we must receive all budgets by April 30th. After you've created and submitted your budget, the next time you will need to use a template will be to submit your 2020 financial report. Select the July tab. In the checking beginning balance cell, enter the beginning balance from your July bank statement. The reporting is in a cash basis, which means you only enter activity that cleared your account in that month. Using your bank statement, enter all deposits that cleared and checks and debits that cleared in the appropriate program and category. Once you've entered all credits and debits, your ending balance at the bottom left-hand side will pre-populate and should match your July bank statement ending balance. Any outstanding deposits or checks need to be entered on the Bank Reconciliation tab. As you complete the monthly tabs, the variance and summary tabs will self-populate. Along with the template, you will also receive a copy of Policy 104, which will explain in more detail of what is needed. The IRS, California State, and our auditors establish the reporting requirements. CWEA is a 501(c) nonprofit organization, and to keep our nonprofit status, we must comply and keep our financials in good order to avoid any state or federal penalties and adverse remarks on our audit. From 2011 to 2017, the IRS revoked the tax-exempt status of over 760,000 nonprofit organizations for failing to comply with these regulations. In the recent years, the IRS and State California has added even more regulations, mainly for good reason. They want to make sure a nonprofit is spending its money on its mission. Unfortunately, it adds more work, but it's necessary. For us to stay compliant, in your monthly report, we need to include invoices and receipts, clear invoices and receipts for all expenses, check request forms, check images. If your bank doesn't provide them, please ask your bank to provide them. If there's a meal expense, we need the list of attendees. If gifts are given or prizes are given, we need a list of the attendee who received the gift or prize and what they received. For deposits, it needs to be a clear description of the deposit, what it was for, and especially if it was cash, we need a clear description of what the cash was for, and keep a check register. Most local sections, well, actually all but 2 local sections are now with Wells Fargo Bank, the ED approved account. And we're currently working on the 16th one, and then eventually, hopefully, we'll get the 17th one on there too. Wells Fargo in recent years has gone through a lot of changes, but it still seems to have the best model available for us to be able to manage multiple bank accounts. With ED, the ED approved account, which is Wells Fargo, you can have online access to view your bank account. You can download your bank statements online. You can get a mobile credit card reader, so you can take payments at the door of any event that you're at. You can get a debit card. You can get an ATM deposit card. Therefore, you don't have to go into the bank to make a deposit, and you don't have to get there before the bank closes. Staff can help you updating signature cards, and we have a designated bank representative at the bank. So the ED approved bank account, we do have a credit card reader. It works with a smartphone or tablet. Funds are deposited directly into your local section bank account. You can add items in advance to make it quick and simple at the door when you're checking people in. It can be used at dinner meetings, workshops, basically anywhere where they have internet. It can save time collecting IOUs, save time on going to the bank to make deposits. It avoids lost checks. And because we have all of us under one umbrella of Wells Fargo, we have a relatively low fee, which is about 2.5%. Some of you, hopefully a lot of you, have already heard that we are developing a new website. We're building a new website. We're hoping that with this new website, we're going to be putting out where local sections can register their events through NetForum. What that will enable us to do is to see what our members really want. It'll list your event straight onto the CWEA event calendar. It will save historical data. It will track member engagement. It'll save a lot on merchant fees, and it'll avoid overlapping events. Questions?
Renee, there was one question asking where would bank fees go, and William actually answered that his section puts it under the bank fee category in the general program.
That's correct.
Does that sound right? Okay. And how do we get credit card readers?
Just send me an email and I can get you a credit card reader as long as you are with Wells Fargo.
And another one, so the new NetForum would be a replacement for those of us using Eventbrite?
That's correct.
And can a section get more than one credit card reader?
Yes.
If a restaurant with no Wi-Fi, then we could not use credit card reader?
You can, as long as your cell phone, you can use the cell phone Wi-Fi, so it should work. On a tablet or somewhere where you're not using your phone, I would imagine you'd need a Wi-Fi. But if you're using your phone, you have your Wi-Fi on your phone, that will work.
In the past, debit cards were not permitted. Is this a change, and are there restrictions?
There are restrictions. Debit cards are limited. They cannot be used for cash. They can only be used for expenses, and there's a $500 limit. It's similar to having petty cash. So instead of having petty cash, it's a debit card.
And is there a mobile app for NetForum?
There is not a mobile app for NetForum.
When we get the new 2020 budget forms emailed by March 6th, can we also get the last couple years of completed forms so we know what was historically spent for new treasurers?
Okay, if you would like the historical data, just reach out to me and I'll send it to you individually. We won't be sending it to all local sections. We'll be just sending the new templates, but we have all the historical data. So if you would like that, yes, just email me and I will get it to you.
Okay, that looks like it for now.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
I will go ahead and pass it on to our incoming treasurer, William.
Hi there. I'm the incoming treasurer. I am a local section treasurer currently of SARS. I've been treasurer for quite a while, so I've seen both sides. And CWEA provides bookkeeping support, so they can take on doing your monthly report, filling out the local section template monthly, giving the results, tracking your progress throughout the year. We have 9 local sections doing it, and it reduces your administration, your effort. It saves you a lot of time as treasurer. It eliminates reporting compliance issues, because if they spot anything as it goes along, they will email you and verify if there's any questions. And then there's no issues about ownership in that they take ownership and assure that everything is done properly. As far as the treasurer reporting, can you step back one slide? You're a little bit ahead of me. You can see here are the various items in which the treasurer is responsible for doing. And whether you have the CWA keep your books or you keep your books, there's 5 things that you have to do in that you supply information to CWA's home office such that they can generate the reports. You have to do the budget in either case. If you're like us, we receive and take cash at the events for walk-ups. And so you have to account for that in either case. If you use Eventbrite or take checks, then you deposit them into the your account at your bank, and then you account for those on what they were used for and what's events. You will have to list attendees to all your events, and you will have to list all gifts or door prizes and their recipients who get those. So those 5 things you have to do, whether you are having CWA do your bookkeeping for you or not. Where they really save you time is they process all invoices and receipts. They do all the electronic filing of entering the data such that the reports can be generated. They handle all forms, handling check requests and getting checks should your need to be replenished. They register your checks, the images, and then they also compile and confirm the cash flow against what your bank statements are. So they balance your checkbook for you. And they also do that with any merchant or event accounting. And then they assure that the reports get done in a timely fashion and confirm with you all the information that's needed. There's 3 pathways in which you can have CWA take on your bookkeeping. One approach is to opt in. You can choose. That's how my local section did. We opted in, figuring it would be much easier on the treasurer and much easier to keep track. If you're 3 months late in getting your information in, your reports in, then the ops committee and the board will take into consideration of taking on that responsibility to get you up to date and catch you up. It'll be brought up in front of the committee and the board, and then based on discussions and history, we may take that on and require you to relinquish your control to CWA. And then not only 3 months in a row, if you have an ongoing issue of being late, where you're not 3 months behind, but consistently behind, so it's like every other month is a pattern to establish an ongoing lateness trend. The committee and the board may choose after discussion on whether to take on your bookkeeping for you. But there's also a way to step back out. So you can opt in by transitioning, coordinate it between your local section and CWA. And it doesn't have to have our board of directors, CWA board of directors, or our ops committee approval to opt in. To opt out, you can, if you're dissatisfied or prefer have it locally in your hands. After 2 years, you can opt out by making a local board majority decision and then submitting a request to the ops committee. And then we'll discuss and look at the history and approve or reject. Should we reject, there's always an appeal where you can bring it to the executive committee and appeal the ops committee's decision. Timeliness of the reporting is very important. That's one reason why CWEA took the approach of bringing in the reports and doing the reports and supporting the local sections. Because once you get behind, it's hard to catch up. Even processing the way we do it as a local section that is supported by CWEA staff. If you process everything immediately, there's less chance of losing documents and less time thinking and remembering where you put stuff and whether you got things done. So, and then if you are late in doing your local reporting, then it takes CWEA staff and volunteer time to communicate and try to catch up and find out what's going on. So it takes a lot of effort if the local sections get behind, and so that's one benefit. If it's turned over and use CWEA itself, then they assure stay on time. Who can help? The treasurer can help. As you can see, Ken is there. He's good until the annual conference, and then he drops out. And then I'll be taking his place, and then you can contact me at my location by email if you have any questions, or you can go to Renew. There's other staff that also can help once you get familiar with them, once you see them, their staff that sends you the reports, if CWEA is doing your monthly reporting. And if you have questions, you can also send questions to them, such as which category would I put the bank fee in? Or other questions about when will a check be sent. One benefit of having CWEA handle your accounts is they cut the checks. So it's a lot less writing and worrying about, did I mail it to the correct address? And they've been very responsive in getting reimbursements out for that. So not having the local treasurer write the checks is not a concern in that their response is so quick. Lots of times I actually get my personal reimbursements back before my credit card ever sees the expense. So there's plenty of help ensuring that those can be met. Any questions?
So I think you just answered that last one that came in, that if we were to opt in for state help, what is the turnaround time for reimbursements of funds for board members?
It's less than 7 days. I've received it as a matter of 2 days, and I'm in Southern California, so it's been quite quick. They receive them Monday through Wednesday and Thursday. You can request earlier checks be made and mailed, but my understanding is they cut checks on Thursday and mail them out. So it can be at worst 7 days I've seen. And in special instances, if you make a request, they can cut the check and express mail it out.
In regards to the gifts or the prizes for the recipients, are they only for the gifts the section purchased, or do they include what vendors bring to give away?
It only includes gifts that were purchased by the section.
And David Wiley, thank you. He says, we have a very good experience with CWEA handling our finances. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Thank you.
On donated gifts and door prizes, it's not in the budget, but in reporting all your door prizes and who received them, my local section accounts in our reporting to CWEA. What we receive as a donated prize and who receives it, who wins the prize. Do we have any other questions?
I don't see anything else coming in.
If you don't have any other questions, but you do come up with questions later while you're preparing your budget, please be free to contact any of us who's partaking today, Ken or myself or Renew, if you need any help in preparing your budget. I believe the budget is actually due, Renew, you can confirm this, by the end of April.
Correct. It's due on or before April 30th.
So we're giving each local section basically a month to prepare it, and then be able to go through and have your local section board vote on it such that you can submit it before the end of April. From that, I would like to take the opportunity here, since I'm the last one on, to thank everybody for attending. I hope you gain something from the presentation and you've learned a little bit. And I wish you luck as treasurers, especially the new ones. I wish you luck, and I think you will enjoy and learn quite a bit about finances and how a corporation or a nonprofit volunteer organizations work and see it from a different way. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, William. Thank you, everyone, for attending.